The world has spent centuries telling women how they should act, how they should please, how they should pursue, and how they should compromise their sense of self for acceptance. Yet, true power has always resided not in the act of chasing, not in the desperate clinging to approval, but in the deliberate choice to stand firm in your worth. A high-value woman is not defined by the attention she receives or the validation she seeks. She is defined by the unwavering understanding of her own value, the clear boundaries she maintains, and the quiet confidence that she brings to every space she occupies. This confidence does not emerge from arrogance or superficial superiority. It emerges from self-awareness, self-respect, and a disciplined understanding of human behavior. To truly embody high-value behavior, one must begin by understanding the psychology of choice and desire. Every action, every subtle movement, and every micro-expression communicates something about a person's priorities, intentions, and self-respect. A high-value woman becomes attuned to these nuances, not to manipulate, but to protect herself and make strategic decisions that honor her worth. In behavioral psychology, we understand that humans are not always consciously aware of the messages they send, yet these messages are consistently observed by others. The high-value woman recognizes that her presence, her words, and her demeanor communicate far more than 1,000 explanations ever could. She uses this knowledge to curate her life intentionally, without chasing what diminishes her energy or her sense of self. At the heart of this is emotional intelligence. The ability to recognize, understand, and regulate one's own emotions is a hallmark of high-value behavior. It is not about suppressing feelings or denying vulnerability. It is about acknowledging emotions without being controlled by them. When a high-value woman experiences desire, frustration, or disappointment, she observes these feelings with clarity and restraint. She does not act impulsively to fill a void, to seek validation, or to force someone's attention. Instead, she allows her self-respect to guide her actions. She understands that every pursuit she initiates carries a price: her energy, her dignity, her sense of autonomy. She does not spend these precious resources carelessly, and she certainly does not surrender them to anyone who has not proven worthy of her investment. This discipline is not instinctive. It is cultivated through reflection and practice. High-value women study patterns, both in themselves and in others. They observe how attention, affection, and commitment are given and received. They recognize that relationships are not balanced by effort alone, but by mutual respect, emotional availability, and alignment of values. When someone is unwilling or unable to meet them in these ways, they resist the temptation to chase. This resistance is not born of pride. It is a conscious act of self-preservation. Chasing communicates a lack of self-control, a willingness to settle, and a message that one's value is negotiable. High-value women do not negotiate their worth, they choose where it belongs. Understanding one's value also requires a deep connection to purpose. The high-value woman knows that her time and energy are finite and precious. She invests them in pursuits that enrich her life, expand her capabilities, and align with her long-term vision. She does not wait for external validation to feel worthy, nor does she measure herself by another's interest or affection. Her sense of value is intrinsic, rooted in her accomplishments, her integrity, and her ability to maintain composure in the face of uncertainty. In the language of psychology, she has internalized an internal locus of control. She recognizes that her happiness, her self-esteem, and her life trajectory are the results of her own decisions and actions, not the whims of others. A key aspect of high-value behavior is selective attention. This is the conscious decision to focus on what matters and disregard what does not. In social interactions, it is easy to be distracted by superficial allure, persuasive charm, or fleeting attention. The high-value woman filters these distractions through her internal compass. She asks herself, does this interaction contribute to my growth? Does it respect my boundaries? Does it honor the value I know I possess? If the answer is no, she disengages without apology. She understands that disengagement is not rejection. It is a signal of self-respect. By refusing to chase, she communicates a silent yet potent message. Her value is not contingent upon anyone's approval or pursuit. High-value behavior is also reflected in the mastery of presence. A woman who is confident in her worth does not need to over-explain, overperform, or overcompensate to be seen or appreciated. Her presence is commanding because it is grounded in authenticity. She moves through life with an ease that comes from knowing her boundaries and owning her choices. This presence is magnetic, not because it is loud or forceful, but because it is rooted in self-assurance. People are drawn to certainty, not neediness. They respond to strength, not desperation. By embodying this, the high-value woman naturally attracts attention and opportunities that align with her worth, without ever having to chase them. Understanding high-value behavior also means understanding the psychology of attachment and desire. Humans are wired to pursue what is scarce, what challenges them, and what cannot be easily obtained. When a high-value woman refuses to chase, she is not playing games. She is creating a natural dynamic where her worth is recognized without coercion. Her restraint is an expression of clarity. She does not conflate attention with love, effort with respect, or availability with value. She is discerning, understanding that those who truly deserve her time and energy will meet her at the level she requires. Others' inability or unwillingness to do so is a reflection of their own limitations, not a measure of her worth. This discernment extends beyond romantic relationships. High-value behavior is evident in friendships, professional interactions, and social dynamics. She does not compromise her principles or dilute her standards to gain acceptance. She chooses her associations carefully, understanding that the people and environments she surrounds herself with have a profound impact on her sense of self and trajectory in life. She exercises strategic patience, knowing that meaningful connections and opportunities are never forced but cultivated over time with clarity and intention. By choosing rather than chasing, she maintains control over the narrative of her life, asserting her autonomy in every domain. Self-respect, above all, is the foundation upon which all high-value behavior rests. Respecting oneself means honoring one's emotions, boundaries, and aspirations. It means refusing to settle for less than one's due and maintaining integrity even when it is inconvenient. When a woman respects herself, she communicates this silently but powerfully to the world. People notice when someone values themselves. It is evident in posture, speech, decisions, and interactions. This respect becomes a filter through which all external attention is measured. Only those who recognize and reciprocate it are allowed in close. Others are met with composure and polite distance, never desperation or pleading. Importantly, high-value women embrace the paradox of strength and softness. Society often mislabels femininity as weakness, yet the highest expression of feminine power lies in the balance of confidence, vulnerability, and strategic intelligence. She can be gentle without being naive, empathetic without being exploited, and loving without losing herself. This balance is a conscious cultivation of psychological and emotional sophistication. It allows her to navigate complex social and relational landscapes with grace, ensuring that her energy is reserved for what is worthy and her boundaries are never compromised. The psychology behind choosing rather than chasing also reveals the hidden power of delayed gratification. Immediate pursuit can create temporary gains, but often at the expense of long-term fulfillment. A high-value woman understands that patience, strategic restraint, and selective engagement are far more effective in cultivating meaningful connections and sustainable success. She recognizes that the world will always present distractions, temptations, and superficial allure, but she is committed to her trajectory and her standards. By waiting for alignment rather than rushing toward validation, she positions herself not only as desirable, but as self-possessed and unshakable. In cultivating this mindset, the high-value woman must also navigate self-doubt and societal pressure. It is easy to be influenced by cultural narratives that equate chasing with caring, attention with affection, or availability with love. Yet, she resists these pressures with conscious thought and self-reflection. She interrogates her motives and actions, asking whether they are rooted in authenticity or in external expectation. When she encounters fear, the fear of rejection, loneliness, or loss, she observes it without surrendering to it. She understands that these feelings are temporary signals, not mandates for action. The decision to choose rather than chase is a daily practice, reinforced through mindfulness, reflection, and the disciplined cultivation of emotional resilience. A high-value woman also understands that her worth is not static. It evolves through learning, experience, and self-awareness. She invests in herself intellectually, emotionally, and physically, ensuring that her growth never stagnates. This commitment to continual self-improvement creates a foundation of internal confidence that is far more compelling than external approval. She does not need to chase because her fulfillment is not dependent upon others. It is cultivated internally, and when she encounters someone or something worthy, her choice to engage is deliberate, conscious, and empowered, not impulsive or desperate. Ultimately, the essence of a high-value woman is choice. She chooses her relationships, her opportunities, her responses, and her investments with clarity and intention. She does not chase because chasing implies a lack of control, a willingness to compromise her standards, and a dependence on external validation. She chooses because choice is an expression of power, self-respect, and strategic intelligence. Every decision is an assertion of her autonomy, every boundary a declaration of her worth, and every action a reflection of her cultivated inner strength. She becomes the master of her own narrative, unshaken by the turbulence of external influence, confident in the knowledge that what is truly meant for her will align with her values and honor her essence. In learning to embody this, one must first look inward and cultivate an unwavering sense of self-worth. It is not enough to act confidently on the surface. The confidence must be rooted in understanding, reflection, and self-knowledge. A high-value woman is not defined by the validation she receives or the attention she commands, but by the internal clarity she possesses about who she is and what she deserves. This internal clarity becomes a shield against impulsive pursuit, manipulative influences, and fleeting desire. It allows her to move through life with grace, composure, and assertive choice, demonstrating that true value is recognized, respected, and never compromised. By mastering the psychology of high-value behavior, the woman positions herself to live not as a reaction to others, but as the architect of her own destiny. She does not chase attention or affection because she knows that these are temporary and often conditional. She chooses relationships, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with her worth, reinforcing a life built on authenticity, strategic awareness, and emotional intelligence. In this way, her power is not in pursuit, but in discernment, not in desperation, but in deliberate, conscious choice. And in this power lies her freedom, her fulfillment, and her undeniable strength. Emotional self-control is the cornerstone of a high-value woman's power. Without it, even the deepest understanding of worth can falter under the pull of desire, fear, or uncertainty. To truly choose rather than chase, one must first learn to navigate the turbulent currents of one's own emotions with clarity and composure. This does not mean suppressing feelings or denying vulnerability. It means observing emotions with intentionality, understanding their source, and responding in alignment with one's values rather than reacting impulsively. A high-value woman recognizes that the ability to regulate her emotional landscape is not a limitation. It is an extraordinary strength that separates fleeting attraction from lasting influence. Consider how often society equates emotional expression with weakness, particularly in women. The reality is that the capacity to experience deeply and feel profoundly is a hallmark of strength, but the difference lies in mastery. A high-value woman experiences emotion fully, yet she never allows it to dictate her worth or compel her into chasing what does not honor her. She understands the psychological principle that external validation is fleeting, and basing decisions on it erodes one's autonomy. By maintaining control over her reactions, she ensures that her energy is reserved for those who respect her, and her attention is allocated to relationships and pursuits that mirror her values. Self-control, in this context, is both reactive and proactive. Reactively, it is the ability to remain composed in the face of provocation, uncertainty, or rejection. A high-value woman does not collapse emotionally when she is met with disinterest or challenge. She does not allow fear of loss, judgment, or scarcity to dictate her actions. Instead, she observes the situation with precision, identifying whether the person or opportunity aligns with her worth. When it does, she engages thoughtfully. When it does not, she disengages with quiet dignity. Her restraint is a form of silent power. It communicates that her energy cannot be bought, borrowed, or begged for. Proactively, emotional self-control allows her to structure her environment and interactions to support her boundaries and long-term objectives. She cultivates habits, routines, and mental frameworks that reinforce resilience, ensuring that her decision-making remains clear even under stress. The cultivation of emotional self-control begins with awareness. A high-value woman spends time reflecting on her triggers, patterns, and unconscious motivations. She asks herself difficult questions. What drives my desire to seek attention or approval? In which situations am I most likely to compromise my standards? By confronting these truths without judgment, she transforms vulnerability into insight. This awareness allows her to anticipate moments when she might be tempted to chase, and to consciously choose a course of action that maintains her integrity. In this way, self-control becomes not a burden, but a strategic tool, a way to protect her energy, assert her worth, and ensure her actions reflect deliberate choice rather than reactive impulse. A critical aspect of mastering self-control is learning to tolerate discomfort without surrender. The impulse to chase often arises from temporary emotional discomfort, the sting of rejection, the anxiety of uncertainty, or the desire for immediate gratification. A high-value woman does not succumb to these impulses. She recognizes that discomfort is not a signal to compromise, but an opportunity to reaffirm her principles. In psychological terms, she practices delayed gratification. She understands that the temporary relief of chasing attention or approval pales in comparison to the lasting satisfaction of maintaining self-respect and making choices that align with her long-term goals. Every time she resists the urge to chase, she strengthens her self-regulation, reinforcing her internal locus of control and deepening her sense of autonomy. Equally important is the ability to manage projection and misperception. People often project their own insecurities, desires, and intentions onto others, creating false narratives that can provoke unnecessary emotional reactions. The high-value woman develops the skill of detachment, not emotional disconnection, but clarity in separating her truth from others' projections. She observes behaviors and interactions objectively, filtering them through her understanding of human psychology. She asks, "Is this a reflection of my value or a reflection of their limitations and choices?" This discernment allows her to respond from a place of intelligence rather than reactivity, preserving her dignity and protecting her energy from being wasted on chasing validation. Mastering emotional self-control also requires the cultivation of inner fulfillment. A woman who is complete in herself does not need external attention to feel worthy. She nurtures her mind, body, and spirit through practices that enhance confidence, creativity, and resilience. Whether through intellectual pursuits, artistic expression, fitness, or personal growth, she invests in herself consistently, ensuring that her sense of identity is independent of others' recognition. When internal fulfillment is established, the urge to chase diminishes naturally, replaced by a deliberate focus on alignment rather than pursuit. She can step into any situation with calm assurance, knowing that she is whole and her value cannot be diminished by external circumstances. The role of boundaries in emotional self-control cannot be overstated. High-value women understand that boundaries are not walls, they are strategic markers of self-respect. She communicates clearly, both verbally and non-verbally, what behavior is acceptable and what is not. These boundaries serve as a protective framework, ensuring that she is not manipulated, exhausted, or devalued by those who do not honor her worth. When others test these boundaries, she does not respond with anger or desperation. She responds with composed clarity. By maintaining consistent boundaries, she reinforces her value and teaches others how to treat her, eliminating the need to chase attention or approval. Resilience, another pillar of emotional mastery, is developed through intentional exposure to challenges and reflection on outcomes. A high-value woman does not avoid disappointment or failure. She studies them. She examines relationships, professional setbacks, and personal missteps to extract insight without internalizing blame or resorting to self-sabotage. This process strengthens her confidence in making choices that honor her worth. She recognizes that the ability to endure discomfort, rejection, or uncertainty without compromising her standards is a profound form of power. Emotional resilience transforms vulnerability into strength, and it enables her to navigate life with the calm assurance of someone who knows that chasing is never necessary when one's worth is unwavering. In addition, the high-value woman understands the psychology of reciprocity and effort. She recognizes that human behavior is often proportional. The energy one invests is reflected in the energy received. When a person is unwilling or incapable of matching her effort, she resists the urge to overcompensate. Chasing communicates desperation, choosing communicates strength. By controlling her emotional response, she ensures that her energy is only invested in relationships and opportunities that demonstrate reciprocity and respect. This selectivity is not exclusionary. It is a deliberate strategy to optimize the quality of her interactions and preserve her dignity. Another aspect of emotional self-control involves mastering the art of pause. High-value women do not react instantly to every message, request, or opportunity. They allow space for reflection, ensuring that their response aligns with their values and long-term goals. This pause is not hesitation. It is a form of strategic intelligence. It creates clarity, prevents impulsive behavior, and signals to others that her attention is not available to be claimed at random. In the psychology of influence, measured response communicates competence, confidence, and self-possession, qualities far more compelling than frantic pursuit. Moreover, the high-value woman cultivates emotional awareness in others through her calm assertiveness. Her composure often encourages others to mirror her stability, creating an environment where respect, honesty, and alignment are more likely to flourish. By mastering her own reactions, she influences the dynamics around her without manipulation or force. This subtle leadership through emotional intelligence ensures that the people she chooses to engage with are those capable of mutual respect and meaningful connection. Chasing becomes unnecessary because her self-mastery naturally filters interactions, leaving only those worthy of her attention. The psychology of projection, reciprocity, and delayed gratification intersect with the broader principle of self-determination. A high-value woman internalizes that her actions are hers alone to control. No one else dictates her worth, her decisions, or her emotional equilibrium. She takes full responsibility for her responses, recognizing that surrendering to impulse or external pressure undermines her autonomy. By consistently choosing self-alignment over reactive pursuit, she reinforces a self-image that is grounded in confidence, clarity, and integrity. Every act of restraint becomes a reaffirmation of her power, a declaration that she cannot be swayed by superficial allure or fleeting desire. At the core of mastering emotional self-control is the principle of alignment. High-value women continually assess whether the people, opportunities, and situations they engage with resonate with their values, goals, and vision for life. This alignment becomes the benchmark for their actions. When alignment is present, they engage fully, confidently, and intentionally. When it is absent, they disengage gracefully, without apology or resentment. They recognize that chasing misaligned opportunities is not only futile, but also corrosive to their self-worth. By consistently prioritizing alignment over immediate gratification, They cultivate a life that is coherent, purposeful, and reflective of their true value. Finally, emotional self-control empowers the high-value woman to navigate complexity with poise. Life is rarely simple, and relationships, professional ventures, and social interactions often contain ambiguity and contradiction. The woman who has mastered her emotions is not swayed by confusion, doubt, or temporary setbacks. She evaluates each situation carefully, discerning between what is significant and what is superficial. She responds with strategic clarity, choosing her investments wisely and refusing to chase those who do not honor her value. This mastery transforms her into a presence of quiet authority, someone whose decisions are respected, whose standards are recognized, and whose worth is undeniable. Through emotional self-control, a high-value woman turns her inner landscape into a fortress of strength. She resists the pull of impulsive chasing, recognizing it as a distraction from her true purpose and a potential erosion of her dignity. She cultivates resilience, patience, and clarity, ensuring that every choice she makes is deliberate and aligned with her worth. She understands that her power lies not in pursuit, but in composed decision-making, and that the people and opportunities truly deserving of her attention will respond naturally to her clarity, confidence, and self-possession. In mastering her emotions, she transforms vulnerability into strategic strength, desire into selective engagement, and choice into a profound expression of personal sovereignty. The final manifestation of a high-value woman's strength lies in her ability to choose. After understanding her worth and mastering her emotions, she steps into the world with deliberate clarity, navigating relationships, career opportunities, and personal experiences with discernment. Choosing is not a passive act. It is a conscious exercise of power, self-respect, and strategic intelligence. It is the culmination of self-awareness and emotional mastery, translating inner strength into tangible decisions that shape her life on her own terms. She does not pursue what diminishes her energy or compromises her integrity, because she knows that true fulfillment comes from alignment rather than acquisition. Choosing begins with clarity of standards. The high-value woman defines what she will accept, what she will not, and why. These standards are not arbitrary or superficial. They are grounded in values, principles, and an intimate understanding of her own worth. In relationships, she evaluates not only affection or attention, but also consistency, respect, and alignment with her life vision. She knows that chemistry alone cannot sustain a meaningful connection, and she resists the temptation to overlook red flags for temporary pleasure or approval. Her clarity is an invisible force that filters her experiences, ensuring that only those who genuinely match her energy, intentions, and values gain access to her time and heart. Equally important is her ability to recognize potential versus performance. High-value women understand that words, promises, and charm are insufficient indicators of genuine alignment. They observe actions, patterns, and behavior over time, using these as reliable measures of integrity and compatibility. She does not chase someone who fails to meet her standards or respect her boundaries. She recognizes that the effort to compel someone to meet her value is an exercise in futility, and she reserves her energy for those who demonstrate it naturally. In this way, she transforms choice into an act of strategic discernment, separating the meaningful from the trivial, the authentic from the superficial. The psychology behind this selective engagement is profound. Humans are wired to seek attachment and validation, but the high-value woman shifts her perspective from scarcity to abundance. She understands that there are countless opportunities, connections, and experiences in the world, and that her worth is not tied to a single outcome or individual. This mindset liberates her from the trap of chasing and positions her to choose with confidence. She does not settle out of fear, loneliness, or urgency. Instead, she exercises patience, knowing that meaningful alignment will present itself to someone who appreciates and reciprocates her value. In making choices, she also recognizes the importance of timing. A high-value woman knows when to engage and when to step back. She does not rush into relationships or commitments to fill a void, nor does she linger in situations that do not serve her long-term vision. Timing, in her hands, becomes a tool for influence and discernment. By choosing when to invest, she maintains control over her narrative and asserts her agency in every interaction. This patience communicates strength and self-possession, making her presence inherently compelling. She becomes the architect of her life, rather than a responder to circumstances, defining her path through intentional choice, rather than reactive pursuit. Another critical component of choosing is the alignment of personal and professional pursuits. High-value women understand that their value is not confined to relationships. It extends to every area of life. She evaluates career opportunities, collaborations, and personal projects with the same discernment she applies to intimate connections. She asks, does this align with my principles, my growth, and my vision? Does it respect my boundaries and honor my capabilities? When the answer is no, she walks away without hesitation or regret. When the answer is yes, she engages fully, confidently, and without compromise. Her choices, therefore, become a reflection of her integrity, intelligence, and unwavering self-respect. Confidence, cultivated through self-awareness and emotional mastery, underpins the power of choice. The high-value woman does not seek validation from those around her because her sense of worth is internalized. This confidence allows her to navigate uncertainty, rejection, or challenges without fear. She recognizes that being selective is not elitist. It is essential. She communicates her value not through demand or desperation, but through calm assurance and intentional action. Her choices are a declaration. She will invest in what honors her, and she will not chase what does not. In this way, she creates a life that is coherent, empowered, and unmistakably her own. In relationships, choosing over chasing manifests as the ability to recognize who is truly deserving of her time and affection. She observes whether a partner is willing to meet her at her level, demonstrate respect, and align with her goals and values. When someone falls short, she does not plead, manipulate, or compromise. She disengages gracefully, conserving her energy for those capable of genuine reciprocity. When someone meets her standards, she engages fully, offering her attention, affection, and support without fear or overextension. This approach ensures that her relationships are rooted in authenticity and mutual respect rather than dependence, neediness, or obligation. Choosing also requires courage. It is often easier to chase, to compromise, or to cling because these actions provide temporary reassurance and the illusion of control. A high-value woman chooses differently. She chooses the path of patience, discernment, and integrity, even when it is uncomfortable, uncertain, or countercultural. She understands that every moment of self-restraint reinforces her identity, strengthens her autonomy, and signals to the world that her worth is non-negotiable. In making these choices consistently, she cultivates a life in which she is not at the mercy of circumstance or the whims of others, but in command of her own trajectory. The psychology of influence also explains why choosing is so powerful. Humans are drawn to certainty and self-possession. When a woman embodies high-value behavior and consistently makes deliberate choices, she naturally commands respect and attention. She does not need to chase. Her energy, confidence, and standards attract those aligned with her. This magnetism is not manufactured or manipulative. It is a natural outcome of self-respect, clarity, and strategic alignment. People are instinctively drawn to strength, composure, and authenticity, and the high-value woman provides all three through the deliberate act of choosing. High-value women also embrace the principle of opportunity cost. Every pursuit requires the investment of time, attention, and energy. She calculates these investments carefully, recognizing that chasing those who do not honor her worth comes at the cost of opportunities that could better align with her vision. By exercising discernment, she maximizes the return on her energy, ensuring that her choices contribute to meaningful relationships, personal growth, and professional success. She becomes not only selective, but strategic, treating her life as a portfolio of opportunities to be curated with care and intentionality. An essential aspect of confident choosing is resilience in the face of disappointment. Even the most self-aware and emotionally controlled women will encounter situations where her expectations are not met or her standards are challenged. The high-value woman responds not with desperation, but with reflection, recalibration, and continued commitment to her principles. She understands that rejection, misalignment, or missed opportunities are not indicators of personal inadequacy, but signals that her energy is better spent elsewhere. By maintaining this perspective, she prevents chasing, preserves dignity, and ensures that her life remains aligned with her highest values.